A no vote doesn't do that. And yes, we root out waste, fraud, and abuse, Mr. Speaker. Waste, fraud, and abuse so that vital programs in America actually work better for the people who deserve them. Why would somebody come up here and defend hundreds of billions of dollars of waste, fraud, and abuse in Washington when hardworking families are barely struggling to get by and pay their taxes and are infuriated when they find out some of the waste that's going on up here and saying, when is somebody going to finally do something about the fraud so that I feel comfortable that if I'm funding my government, it's going to go to help the people who deserve it and not some 35-year-old kid who's fully able-bodied who's sitting in his mom's basement playing video games, getting over $40,000 in taxpayer-funded benefits while you're working 2 jobs, while the waiter or waitress averaging $32,000 a year is struggling to get by. We help them. That's who we're helping, those families who are struggling, and we will get this economy moving again. You can vote yes or you can vote no. I wish everybody would vote no. A yes vote gets America's economy moving again, allows President Trump to continue fighting for the hardworking families who elected him all across this country. Every swing state, majority of the American population want this kind of relief. So we're going to keep moving forward, Mr. Speaker. We're going to deliver for those families who deserve this help, who want to see America come back. And they know America can come back, but they know America's been held back for the last 4 years. The same people who have been telling you that President Biden's health was just fine are now telling you all these other things about millionaires and billionaires. We're going to get this right. This bill finally starts to right the ship of state. We all should come together and do that, Mr. Speaker. We've got so many great people who have worked so hard to get to this point, and we're still at the early stages. Let's send this bill over to the Senate, give them the opportunity to have their say as well. But ultimately, let's go deliver. Let's go deliver for that single mom who's working the night shift at a diner right now, who's going to have more money in her pocket because of this bill, who's maybe going to be able to send her kid to college because of this bill. We're going to deliver for those families. You could say yes or no. America's absolutely watching. America went to the polls in November and said, we want and are calling on Congress to provide this relief. We ran and said, we'll do something about it and we'll fix it. And we're actually following through, Mr. Speaker, on that promise made to the American people. President Trump is leading the way. President Trump is going to turn this country around, and this bill gives him the tools to do just that. I urge everybody to vote yes. I yield back the balance of my time.
Gentleman from Massachusetts.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let me say to my friend, the majority leader, everybody on this side was cheering for the success of that young man defeating cancer. The way we're going to defeat cancer is not to cut NIH. Let me yield the remainder of our time to the very capable and distinguished minority leader, Mr. Jeffries, for 1 minute.
Gentleman from New York, the minority leader, is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let me also thank the distinguished gentleman from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts who's done a tremendous job leading the Ways and Means Committee on our side, Congressman Richie Neal. I also want to thank Ranking Member Brendan Boyle, Ranking Member Jim McGovern, all of the members of the Ways and Means Committee, the Budget Committee, the Rules Committee, every single member of the House Democratic Caucus who has stood on this floor, stood before the Rules Committee, participated in markups on behalf of the American people, in defense of the American people. Mr. Speaker, I rise today in strong opposition to this reckless, regressive, and reprehensible GOP tax scam. This is one big, ugly bill that House Republicans are trying to jam down the throats of the American people under the cover of darkness. This legislation will not make life better for the American people. The GOP tax scam represents an assault on the economy, an assault on health care, an assault on nutritional assistance, an assault on tax fairness, and an assault on fiscal responsibility. There are more than 100 other reasons to vote against this one big, ugly bill that can be found by reading this more than 1,000-page document. Those reasons are too numerous to mention, but this legislation also undermines reproductive freedom, undermines the progress that we have made in combating the climate crisis, undermines gun safety, undermines the rule of law and the independence of the federal judiciary. It even undermines the ability of hard-working and law-abiding immigrant families to provide remittances to their loved ones who may just happen to live abroad. There are more than 100 different reasons to vote against the GOP tax scam. And in the days, in the weeks, in the months to come, all of those reasons will be exposed for the American people in each and every one of your districts. But this bill represents a failed promise. Last year, Donald Trump and House Republicans spent all of their time talking about their promise to lower the high cost of living in the United States of America. In fact, Donald Trump and Republicans promised that costs would go down on day one. We're now more than 120 days past the inauguration. Costs aren't going down, they're going up. Inflation is out of control. Insurance rates remain stubbornly high. Our Moody's rating, our credit rating, has been downgraded. And you've got people losing confidence in this economy. Republicans are crashing this economy in real time and driving us toward a recession. But beyond that, costs are actually going up. The trade war that Donald Trump has recklessly launched, his tariff scheme, will raise the cost of goods and groceries and gas for everyday Americans, the Americans that you claimed you were going to help, but the Americans that you are clearly hurting. You've destabilized the business environment. Small businesses are at risk of closing. Farmers, small family farmers, are in distress. Businesses can't invest. People are not hiring. You are actively crashing the economy, driving America toward a recession. You promise to lower costs on day one. Costs aren't going down, they are going up. Now, as House Democrats, we believe that we have to build an affordable economy for hardworking American taxpayers. We're committed to lowering housing costs and grocery costs and insurance costs and child care costs and utility costs. America, the wealthiest country in the history of the world, there are far too many people living paycheck to paycheck, struggling to make ends meet. Here in this country, no American should find themselves in that situation. And you promised that you would do something about it. But things are not getting better, they are getting worse. We could have partnered together to try to find a bipartisan path toward building an affordable economy for hardworking American taxpayers. But you chose to go it alone, to try to drive your extreme right-wing policies down the throats of the American people. And that's what this one big ugly bill represents. Not simply a broken promise as it relates to your failures on the economy, and despite the gentleman from Louisiana trying to articulate all of the so-called successes that have taken place, we know that this presidency has already been a failure, filled with crisis and chaos, cruelty, and corruption. And the American people know it, which is why Donald Trump, at the 100-day mark, was the most unpopular president in American history. The American people understand. It's unfolding right before their eyes, no matter what kind of MAGA spin you try to put on the situation. And things are going to get worse. Why? Because of this big, ugly bill. Not simply an assault on the economy, a broken promise, it's an assault on the health care of the American people. You see, as Democrats, we believe in this country, health care is not simply a privilege, health care is a right. And from Medicare to Medicaid to the passage of the Affordable Care Act and subsequently enhancing it, we've begun to move America to a place where every single person in this land could have access to the health care that they need to live a life of dignity and respect. At this moment in America, we have the lowest rate of uninsured people in our nation's history. But this GOP tax scam will reverse that with this assault on health care, the largest cut to Medicaid in American history. And here's what it will mean for the American people. Children will get hurt. Women will get hurt. Older Americans who rely on Medicaid for nursing home care and for home care will get hurt. People with disabilities who rely on Medicaid to survive will get hurt. Hospitals in your districts will close. Nursing homes will shut down. And people will die. That's not hype. That's not hyperbole. That's not a hypothetical. The people that you all represent have been writing to us to make that clear. Thousands of people who've written to us, everyday Americans, have made that clear. And let me just present a few of those stories into the record. I have type 1 diabetes and was diagnosed when I was 7 years old. I've had jobs with private insurance in the past, but I lost my job during the pandemic. With childcare becoming a major challenge, it made more sense for me to stay home with the kids, but that also meant losing my health benefits. Right now, we're all on Medicaid. It's crucial for me to stay alive and healthy. I need insulin and supplies to manage my diabetes every single day. Without it, I could die. That's Shauna, who lives in Arizona's 6th congressional district. My youngest son has leukemia. He was a self-employed handyman, and therefore he didn't have sufficient insurance. When the cancer became more debilitating, he could no longer work. He has undergone radiation, stem cell transplant, and then more radiation. He is still fighting the cancer, and without Medicaid and the fine physicians, he would surely die. That's Greg, who lives in the 8th congressional district of Colorado. As a cancer survivor, with chronic illnesses, I rely heavily on Medicaid and food stamps to get by. Without these essential programs, people like me would suffer. I'm currently taking expensive medication to stay in remission, but my condition and the side effects of my treatment make it impossible for me to work. Unfortunately, my work history also disqualifies me from receiving Social Security benefits. I'm not alone in my dependence on these Medicaid and food stamps benefits. Children, elders, and many others who are sick or struggling also rely on them to survive. I urge you to do the right thing for the people you represent. Without food stamps and Medicaid, the consequences would be painful and even deadly. That's Jalissa, who had a message for her representative in Pennsylvania's 8th Congressional District. What we're here to say, as House Democrats, to Shauna, to Greg, and to Jalissa, that if your representatives won't fight for you, we will. We will. We will. If they won't fight for you, we will fight for you, for your health care, for your decency, for your well-being, for your grace, and for your dignity. Now, in addition to visiting the largest cut to Medicaid in American history, that's not enough for the MAGA extremists. CBO has independently confirmed that this one big, ugly bill will also set in motion a $490 billion cut to Medicare in this country. Now, unfortunately, that should come as no surprise, because we know that our Republican colleagues for decades have been trying to attack Social Security, as they're doing right now, not necessarily in this bill. Why? Because the 1974 Budget Control Act prevents you from doing it. But you've been going after Social Security for a long time, going after Medicare for a long time, and Elon Musk, who seems to function as your puppet master, has made clear his intentions, which you just follow as if you work for him. Elon Musk wants to take a chainsaw to Social Security, a chainsaw to Medicare, as you're doing in this bill, a chainsaw to Medicaid, as you're doing in this bill. Here's our message to you and the American people: no matter how long it takes, House Democrats are going to take a chainsaw to Project 2025, because it's not in the best interests of the American people. And what this bill represents is your effort to try to put into law Project 2025. You acted like you didn't know anything about it. This is why you have no credibility right now. You spent all of last year lying to the American people, saying to them that you were going to lower the high cost of living. In fact, you're doing the exact opposite. At the same period of time, you acted like you knew nothing about Project 2025, and this bill is an effort to try to implement it into law. So, you mentioned credibility issues. I think it exists on the right side of this chamber. Now, not only have you gone after Medicaid, Not only have you gone after Medicare, in this,
you are to direct your comments to the chair.
Mr. Speaker, you know what's interesting is that every time I've come on this floor, I can use sharp language, he can use sharp language. You choose to admonish me. I don't work for you, sir. I work for the American people.
I understand. House will be in order. As I said, Mr. Leader, we've been very patient. Just listen to the majority leader of the other side who directed all of his comments to the chair. It is important for the decorum of the institution for you to do the same. You may proceed.
We can continue this.
You may proceed.
And every time I'm interrupted, that's going to add another 15 minutes to my remarks.
Fair enough.
Mr. Speaker, so what we've seen is the largest cut to Medicaid in American history, an effort to devastate Medicare. And of course, what this bill also does is strip away some of the coverage provided by the Affordable Care Act. Millions of people will lose their coverage as a result of this GOP tax scam. And so when you aggregate the assault on health care that's taking place, what we're likely to see is at least 13.7 million people are going to lose their health care in the United States of America. That's what we're fighting for. That's why we're a no, amongst several other reasons, on this bill. It's an assault on the economy, an assault on health care. It's also an assault on nutritional assistance. Now, in the 1960s, the American people were shaken up and disturbed by images that they saw after some investigations exposed the conditions of some people in America who were dealing with intense hunger in rural America, in under-resourced communities, in communities of color. Images of children with distended bellies, families rummaging through garbage in order to find food so they wouldn't starve. That's what eventually led to the creation of what is now the Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program. Because the American people concluded that in this great country, not a single child should ever go hungry. That's our position. Apparently, it's not the position of my Republican colleagues. Because in this bill, SNAP, the Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program, will experience more than $300 billion in cuts, the largest cut to nutritional assistance in American history. Literally, Mr. Speaker, Republicans are taking food out of the mouths of children, disabled Americans, veterans, and older Americans. That is another reason why we are strongly opposed to this bill. This is the United States of America, the wealthiest country in the history of the world. It is indecent to rip food out of the mouths of children and everyday Americans. It is indecent. And to make matters worse, we know that as a result of this bill, according to an analysis from the Urban Institute, there are 18 million children in this country who are at risk of losing school meals. Decade after decade after decade in America, we've made great progress. That progress, as it relates to alleviating hunger and food insecurity, is now at risk of being rolled back. And one of the excuses that I'm sure we'll hear from the speaker of this institution is that this one big ugly bill is all about waste, fraud, and abuse. It's interesting because month after month after month, we continue to hear that phrase. And let's be clear, as Democrats, we believe in trying to make sure that federal taxpayer dollars are spent in an efficient and an effective way. We're all for that. But that's not what's being done in this bill. No evidence of waste, fraud, and abuse has been presented in a compelling way. In fact, you know what's interesting? You're talking about taking away nutritional benefits that amount to $2 per meal, $6 per day. At the same time, when Elon Musk and his federal contracts are worth $8 million a day. If you're trying to find waste, fraud, and abuse, I have a suggestion. Start right there. Start right there. Don't take food from the mouths of our children. Start right there. And so, it's one big ugly bill. It's GOP tax scam. It's reckless Republican budget. It's an assault on the economy. It's an assault on health care. It's an assault on nutritional benefits. It's also an assault on tax fairness. I mean, here's the thing, that it's the largest cut to health care in American history, coupled by the largest cut to nutritional assistance in American history, in order to enact the largest tax breaks for billionaires in American history. That's unacceptable, that's unconscionable, and that's un-American. That's un-American. Because my Republican colleagues promised that they would actually focus their efforts on trying to make life better for everyday Americans. But disproportionately, the benefits of this bill, as confirmed by independent observers, don't go to those who may be at the lower end of the socioeconomic spectrum. They actually go disproportionately to those at the highest end of the economic spectrum. CBO analysis requested by Congressman Boyle and myself just confirmed that. Not hype, not hyperbole, not a hypothetical. It's what will happen if this one big ugly bill became law. And so it's an assault on tax fairness. And of course, that's coupled with the assault on fiscal responsibility. It's ironic to me that many of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle claim to be the party of fiscal responsibility. But as Richie Neal has often eloquently articulated, that's not what the record shows. The record shows something very different. And this fiscal irresponsibility that comes from the other side of the aisle is actually connected to the obsession with massive tax cuts for the wealthy, the well-off, and the well-connected. We've seen this rinse and repeat scenario play itself out over and over and over again. President Reagan comes into office, and what is his signature domestic priority? His signature domestic priority, massive tax cuts for the super wealthy. And as a result, he escalates the debt and the deficit. Those policies, of course, are continued by his successor, President George H.W. Bush. But then President Clinton takes office, and in his 8 years, turns a deficit into a budget surplus. That's fiscal responsibility. And then after 8 years in office, President Clinton is replaced by President George W. Bush, who proceeds to follow the same playbook. You used to call it trickle-down economics. The American people aren't buying it because they figured out what trickle-down economics means. We may get a trickle, but we're guaranteed to stay down. And that's what's happened over and over and over again. So President Bush comes into office, and what does he do? Massive tax cuts for the wealthy, the well-off, and the well-connected. The 2001 tax cuts, the 2003 tax cuts turned a budget surplus into a massive deficit, and then further exacerbated the problem with a failed war in Iraq and a failed war in Afghanistan, asleep at the switch as it related to the economy, which resulted in the Great Recession. So President Obama takes office to once again demonstrate what fiscal responsibility is all about. And in 8 years, takes the deficit that he inherited of $1.5 trillion and cuts it by $1 trillion, notwithstanding the economic mess that he inherited, having to dig the country out of the Great Recession. And then, of course, after 8 years of President Obama, which brings us to the current administration in its first term, as my colleague from Louisiana talked about, what's your signature legislative accomplishment? The 2017 version of the GOP tax scam, where by some estimates, 83% of the benefits were set in motion for the wealthiest 1%, and you borrowed more than $2 trillion to do it. Once again, exploding the debt and the deficit in the United States of America. President Biden comes into office in his first 2 years, notwithstanding all of the signature accomplishments, many of which did have some bipartisan support, particularly in the Senate, significant accomplishments led by President Biden, Speaker Pelosi, Democrats in the House partnering with our colleagues in the Senate, notwithstanding all of those accomplishments, reduces the deficit in its first 2 years by $1.7 trillion. That's what fiscal responsibility looks like. So we're not going to be lectured on this issue. And then my colleagues have the nerve to talk about fiscal responsibility, to try to pass a bill that disproportionately benefits their billionaire donors like Elon Musk and will add to the debt more than $5 trillion. That's an assault on fiscal responsibility. That is forcing our children and our grandchildren, all of them, to shoulder an unnecessary burden that will limit their ability to fully experience the American dream. And so that's why we oppose this bill. An assault on the economy, an assault on health care, an assault on nutritional assistance, including on our veterans, an assault on tax fairness, and an assault on fiscal responsibility. As I close, let me make one other observation. I do believe that there are people of faith on both sides of this chamber. Authentically, people of faith on both sides of this chamber. I'm not one to question anyone's faith. But I do think we have to ask the question, particularly when you study the gospel, and the gospel in particular of Matthew 25 and 35 through 40, where Jesus talks about the importance of standing up for the least, the lost, the left behind, the poor, the sick, the afflicted, the homeless, the people who are confined, strangers in a foreign land. That when you know the gospel, when you are charged with trying to live the gospel, it cannot be the case that one goes to synagogue, or one goes to the mosque, or one goes to church, as I do, but one goes to church to pray on Sunday and then comes to Washington, D.C. to pray on the American people the rest of the week. P-R-E-Y. Can't pray on the poor, pray on the sick, pray on the afflicted, pray on our children, pray on people with disabilities, pray on our veterans who serve this country, and project that that is consistent with the faith that I at least know, anchored in Matthew 25 and 35. So, Mr. Speaker, I think this, in some ways, is a sad day here for this institution. James Madison, one of our great thinkers, I believe it was in Federalist 51, talks about Congress at its best should function as a rival to the executive branch, serve as a check and balance on the out-of-control impulses of an executive that may emerge from time to time. Congress, according to James Madison, at its best, would serve as a rival to the executive branch. But unfortunately, our House Republican colleagues haven't followed the vision of this Madisonian version of democracy, because you have consistently proven to be nothing more than a rubber stamp for Donald Trump's extreme agenda. And the American people are paying attention. The American people are paying attention. So I think that when the story is told of the 119th Congress, when the votes are ultimately cast on that first Tuesday in November next year, that this day may very well turn out to be the day that House Republicans lost control of the United States House of Representatives. Because the American people are paying attention. They are smarter than you think. And they know when they are being hurt. They know when their interests are not being served. And they know when they have been lied to and deceived. You see, they know that Congress was meant to be a separate and co-equal branch of government. We don't work for President Trump. We don't work for J.D. Vance. We don't work for Elon Musk. We work for the American people. That's what House Democrats are all about. And because we work for the American people, we will continue to stand up for an economy that's affordable and makes life better for hardworking American taxpayers. Will stand up for Social Security, stand up for Medicare, stand up for Medicaid, stand up for nutritional assistance, stand up for our children, stand up for our veterans, stand up for our seniors, stand up for our families, stand up for the American way of life. That's what House Democrats will continue to do. We will stand up today, stand up tomorrow, stand up this week, stand up next week, stand up this month, stand up next month, stand up this year, stand up next year, stand up at all times until we end this national nightmare and restore the American dream for every single person in this great land from sea to shining sea. Vote no. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back his time. Gentleman from Missouri.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Democrat leader is mistaken. We aren't currently in the dead of night. We are voting for the one big, beautiful bill.
House to be in order.
We are voting for the one big, beautiful bill first thing in the morning because the relief for working families simply can't wait and will work until the job's done, and we're going to do that. I am pleased to yield 1 minute to the gentleman from Louisiana, our Speaker, the Speaker of the House, Mr. Mike Johnson.
The gentleman from Louisiana, the Speaker of the House, is recognized for 1 minute.
After that very long and wandering speech, my friend, and after a long week and a long night and countless hours of work over the past year, a lot of prayer and a lot of teamwork, my friends, it quite literally is again morning in America, isn't it? All right, all right. And after 4 long years of President Biden's failures, President Trump's America First agenda is finally here, and we are advancing that today. What we're going to do here this morning is truly historic, and it will make all the difference in the daily lives of hardworking Americans. The Dallas waitress pulling overtime, the Detroit mom counting bills late at night, the Kentucky coal miner waiting on his second chance. These are the forgotten men and women of our country that we are all called here to serve. And the one big, beautiful bill will deliver for those people. It revives our economy. It will deliver historic tax relief. It will make the largest investment in our border security in a generation. It will unleash affordable American energy again, restore common sense to government, secure generational savings, and strengthen our national defense, while it also strengthens our essential programs like Medicaid for the people who need it the most. That's what we're doing with the One Big Beautiful Bill. To put it simply, this bill gets Americans back to winning again, and it's been a long time coming. This one big beautiful bill is the most consequential legislation that any party has ever passed, certainly under a majority this thin. Legislation of this magnitude is truly nation-shaping and life-changing. It's the kind of transformational change that future generations will see this day as a turning point in American history. And it's exactly what we were sent here to do. Let the record show that when the House Democrats vote in a few moments, this is what they'll be voting for. Their vote will show that they are apparently for the largest tax increase in the history of our country. They will be voting for, when they vote against this bill, waste, fraud, and abuse. They will be voting against safer communities, American energy dominance, and American strength on the world stage. And today wouldn't be possible without the leadership of arguably the most powerful and the most successful and the most respected president in the modern era of the United States. Our Democrat colleagues mock the objective truth. We were delivered unified government, my friends, in November. The White House, the Senate, and the House were delivered to the party on this side of the aisle. So you can laugh all you want, all right? None of this would be possible without the leadership of the 45th and the 47th President of the United States, Donald J. Trump. And it would not be possible without the really hard work of the men and women on this side of the aisle. I just want to name our chairman of our House committees that produced and did all the hard work to produce the big, beautiful bill. Scripture says we give honor where honor's due, Mr. Leader, and we're going to do that here quickly. Chairman G.T. Thompson of the Agriculture Committee, Chairman Mike Rogers of the Armed Services Committee, Chairman Jody Arrington of the Budget Committee, Chairman Tim Walberg, Education and Workforce Committee, Chairman Brett Guthrie, Energy and Commerce Committee, Chairman French Hill, Financial Services Committee, Chairman Mark Green, Homeland Security Committee, Chairman Jim Jordan, Judiciary Committee, Chairman Bruce Westerman, Natural Resources Committee, Chairman James Comer, Oversight and Accountability Committee, Chairman Sam Graves, Transportation and Infrastructure, Chairman Jason Smith, Ways and Means Committee. And I want to make special mention of Chairwoman Virginia Fox of the Rules Committee, who, by my count, sat in that chair and led that Rules Committee for almost, seemed like 2 straight days, and I think she took 2 short breaks. She's the Iron Lady of the House, and I'm so grateful for all their hard work. See, the beauty of what we produced with the one big beautiful bill over here is that this was a team effort. This was men and women who were elected to come here, the duly elected representatives of the people back home. They rolled up their sleeves. They got down in the trenches. We began this effort over a year ago. It was actually March of last year because we anticipated and we believed that we would be delivered unified government, that we would have a Republican leader in the White House, Donald J. Trump, that we would have the Senate and the House, that we would have that moment of opportunity. And so we planned and we worked and we locked arms together as a team, and we have delivered this against all odds. The media has tried to divide us. They've written our eulogy about 10 times. And you know what? Sometimes it's good to be underestimated, isn't it? But we got this done, and I'm so proud of the work of every member of this House Republican Conference who worked in their committees. Every single member had a say in this. Every single constituent, the millions of people that are represented here, have their voices and their interests reflected because we did this together as a team. And it's quite an achievement. I just want to say that all that tireless work has led to the hard work of crafting this legislation, and we've been ready since day one to deliver on this agenda. Unified control of government is a rare mandate. It doesn't happen very often. It's happened just 3 times for our party in the last half century. We do not take it for granted. And we are delivering on that mandate here today. The American people gave us a mandate in November. They sent a message with their vote. They gave this side of the aisle the power, and we're going to use it to make their lives better. What we're achieving here today is nothing short of historic, and that's true. House Republicans are getting it done again. In the Republican Party, see, we believe in a simple principle. We believe that America really is a shining city on a hill. Ronald Reagan used to talk about that. He was referencing Scripture. He understood that America is exceptional. He understood that, as it says right there above the speaker's rostrum, our national motto, that we trust in God, and God is our trust. These are the things that make our nation exceptional, and the people of our country, they deserve better. We've been working hard to deliver so that the people of our country see this again as a shining city on a hill, and that people around the world see us for who we should be. One thing that we can all agree on both sides of the aisle is that a strong America is good for everybody all around the world. All of us together, regardless of party, we're called here to stand together and to defend those freedoms and to defend those foundations that made us the greatest nation in the history of the world. All of us have to look and recognize that the shine has not been on that city in a while. We're here to restore it. And this piece of legislation, as large as it is and as historic as it is, will do that very thing. Now look, we're accomplishing a big thing here today, but we know this isn't the end of the road just yet. We've been working closely with Leader Thune and our Senate colleagues, the Senate Republicans, to get this done and delivered to the President's desk by our Independence Day. That's July 4th. Today proves that we can do that, and we will do that. And it doesn't matter how much the media doubts this or how much the Democrats, give us their narratives. Doesn't matter how long the speeches are. It doesn't change the facts. We're delivering, and we're doing it in a big way. So to our friends in the Senate, I would just say the President is waiting with his pen. The American people are waiting for this relief. They are waiting for these life-changing results, and we are going to finish this job. This is a historic moment that we will be talking to our children and our grandchildren about, and everyone will remember. America's back. I yield back.
Gentleman from Massachusetts with 2 minutes remaining.
I yield back.
Gentleman yields back his time. Gentleman from Missouri with 2 minutes remaining.
I yield back.
Gentleman from Missouri yields back. All time for debate has expired. Pursuant to House Resolution 436, the previous question is ordered on the bill as amended. The question is on engrossment and third reading of the bill. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. Ayes have it. Third reading.
A bill to provide for reconciliation pursuant to Title II of House Concurrent Resolution 14.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Massachusetts seek recognition?
I ask for a recorded vote, Mr. Speaker. Okay.
I'm sorry. For what purpose does the gentlelady from Massachusetts seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I have a motion to recommit at the desk.
The clerk will report the motion.
Mr. Han of Massachusetts moves to recommit the bill H.R. 1 to the Committee on the Budget.
Pursuant to Clause 2B of Rule 19, the previous question is ordered on the motion to recommit. The question is on the motion. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. Opinion of the chair, the noes have it. Gentlelady from
Mr. Speaker, I ask for the yeas and nays.
Yeas and nays are requested. Those favoring a vote by the yeas and nays will rise. Sufficient number having risen, the yeas and nays are ordered. Members will record their votes by electronic device. Pursuant to Clause 9 of Rule 20, this 15-minute vote on the motion to recommit will be followed by 5-minute votes on passage of H.R. 1 if ordered, and the motion to suspend the rules and pass H.R. 1701 if ordered. This is a 15-minute vote. On this vote, the yeas are 212, the nays are 216. The motion is not adopted. The question is on passage of the bill. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. No. The ayes have it. The gentleman from Massachusetts.
I ask for the yeas and nays.
The yeas and nays are requested. Those favoring a vote by the yeas and nays will rise. Sufficient number having risen, the yeas and nays are ordered. Members will record their votes by electronic devices. It's a 5-minute vote.
On this vote, the yeas are 215, the nays are 214, with one answering present. The bill is passed.
USA, USA.
Without objection, a motion to reconsider is laid on the table.
Pursuant to Clause 8 of Rule 20, the unfinished business is the question on suspending the rules and passing H.R. 1701, which the clerk will report by title.
H.R. 1701, a bill to require the Secretary of Defense and the Secretary of State to monitor efforts by the People's Republic of China to build or buy strategic foreign ports and for other purposes.
Will the House suspend the rules and pass the bill? So many as are in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. In the opinion of the chair, 2/3 being in the affirmative, the rules are suspended. The bill is passed, and without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid on the table. Pursuant to Clause 8 of Rule 20, the unfinished business is the question on suspending the rules. The House. Pursuant to Clause 8 of Rule 20, the unfinished business is the question on suspending the rules and passing H.R. 1969 as amended, which the clerk will report by title.
Union Calendar Number 76, H.R. 1969, a bill to amend and reauthorize the Staff Sergeant Parker Gordon Fox Suicide Prevention Grant Program of the Department of Veterans Affairs.
The question is, will the House suspend the rules and pass the bill as amended? So many as are in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. In the opinion of the chair, 2/3 being in the affirmative, the rules are suspended. The bill is passed, and without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid on the table. The chair lays before the House a communication.
The Honorable, the Speaker, House of Representatives, sir, pursuant to Section 1K of House Resolution 895, 110th Congress, and Section 4D of House Resolution 5, 119th Congress, I transmit to you notification that the following individuals each have signed an agreement not to be a candidate for the office of Senator or Representative in, or Delegate or Resident Commissioner to, the Congress for the purpose of the Federal Election Campaign Act of 1971 until at least 3 years after they are no longer a member of the board or staff of the Office of Congressional Conduct. Karen L. Haas, Grace Lieberman, Bill Luther, Lorraine C. Miller, Lynn A. Westmoreland, Omar Ashmawi, Indahara Benitez, Doctrell Cromartie, Christina Crump, Helen Eisner, Jean-Paul Theroux, Peter Tilley, and Amber Venzen. Copies of the signed agreements will be retained by the Office of the Clerk as part of the records of the House. Signed sincerely, Kevin F. McCumber, Clerk.
The chair lays before the House a communication.
The Speaker's Rooms, Washington, D.C., May 22, 2025. I hereby designate the period from Thursday, May 22, 2025 through Monday, June 2, 2025 as a district work period under Clause 13 of Rule 1. Signed, Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House of Representatives.
Pursuant to Clause 13 of Rule 1 and House Resolution 435, the House stands adjourned until 10 a.m. on Friday, May 23, 2025, as a further mark of respect to the memory of the late Honorable Gerald E. Connolly.
Policies that allowed them to rich.
House will be in order. Members, please take conversations from the floor. Clerk will read the resolution.
House Resolution 435, resolved that the House has heard with profound sorrow of the death of the Honorable Gerald E. Connolly, a representative from the Commonwealth of Virginia. Resolved, that the clerk communicate these resolutions to the Senate and transmit a copy thereof to the family of the deceased. Resolved, that when the House adjourns today, it adjourn as a further mark of respect to the memory of the deceased.
Without objection, the resolution is agreed to and the motion to reconsider is laid upon the table. Who are we going to first? For what purpose does the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Arrington, seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, pursuant to House Resolution 436, I call up Bill H.R. 1, the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, and ask for its immediate consideration in the House.
Clerk will report the title of the bill.
Union Calendar Number 78, H.R. 1, a bill to provide for reconciliation pursuant to Title II of House Concurrent Resolution 14.
Pursuant to House Resolution 436, an amendment in the nature of a substitute consisting of the text of the Rules Committee Print 119-3, modified by the amendment printed in House Report 119-113, is adopted and the bill as amended is considered read. The bill as amended shall be debatable for 2 hours, equally divided among and controlled by the chair and ranking minority member of the Committee on the Budget, on their respective designees, and the chair and ranking minority member on the Committee of Ways and Means or their respective designees. The gentleman from Texas, Mr. Arrington, and the gentleman from Pennsylvania, Mr. Boyle, the gentleman from Missouri, Mr. Smith, and the gentleman from Massachusetts, Mr. Neal, each will control 30 minutes. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Texas.
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that all members may have 5 legislative days within which to revise and extend their remarks and include extraneous material on H.R. 1.
Without objection.
Mr. Speaker, I yield myself such time as I may consume.
Gentleman is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, for the last 4 years, the American people have suffered one self-inflicted crisis after another, from the chaos at our southern border to our crime-ridden streets to a cost of living crisis that decimated working families from sea to shining sea, leaving Americans weaker, our country more divided and more vulnerable than it's been in generations. Colleagues, lest we forget how we got here and why this moment is so important and so consequential in the life of our country, let's reflect on the recent history. Under the leadership of Biden-Harris and congressional Democrats, our federal government failed to enforce the laws of our land and unilaterally surrendered our sovereign border to terrorist drug cartels. On top of that, our military mission was reduced from warfighter readiness to ideological indoctrination. We lost the confidence of our allies, the respect of our enemies, and America's influence on the world stage. Unbridled spending and failed fiscal policies sent our country's economy into a tailspin. Trillions in deficit spending, trillions more in regulations, cradle-to-grave welfare without work, and an all-out assault on American energy independence wreaked havoc on our economy and created the worst inflation crisis in 40 years. In November, the American people gave President Trump an historic mandate and unified Republican leadership in Congress to reverse course on these failed policies and their disastrous consequences. And that's exactly what this bill does, Mr. Speaker. The One Big Beautiful Bill Act delivers the greatest single investment in border security and national defense, the largest tax cuts for families and small businesses, the most significant commitment to unlocking America's energy resources, and the largest reduction in spending in the history of the United States by twofold. But in an attempt to derail our efforts, you can be sure of this: our Democrat colleagues will use their tired old tactics of fear-mongering and false claims. They like to lead you to believe that this reconciliation bill is a, quote, tax cut for the rich on the backs of the poor. Their narrative throughout this process has not only been misleading, Mr. Speaker, and completely untrue, it preys on the fears of our nation's most vulnerable. Here's the truth. The 2017 tax cuts lowers tax rates for every American household at every income level, with the lower income families benefiting the most, while actually increasing the amount of taxes paid at the top 1%. 3 out of every $4 in the Trump tax cuts didn't go to corporations, they went to individuals. Workers experienced a record 25-year wage increase. Families received an additional $5,000 in median household income, and income for the bottom 50% grew 3 times faster than the top 1%. And as a result, Mr. Speaker, a record 6 million Americans were lifted out of poverty. This won't stop our Democrat colleagues from scaring you with fallacious statements that, quote, children will go without food, seniors will be stranded without health care, and the disabled will be left to die in the streets. All of this is just a cover for what they really want to do. They want to protect health care and welfare at any cost for illegal immigrants, at the expense of hardworking taxpayers and our citizens who depend on them. And crazy enough, Mr. Speaker, they also want to abandon the common sense Clinton-era work requirements that reduce government dependency by 80%. And instead, they would trap millions of people in poverty and rob them of the dignity of work. But by the overwhelming results of this last election, it's abundantly clear the American people see through this too. And they have totally rejected the Democrats' radical agenda. Their message to Washington was clear, Mr. Speaker. They want competent leaders, common sense policies, and a commitment from all of us to put America and Americans first. Now, let's give the people what they voted for. I reserve my time.
Reserves the balance of his time. Gentleman from Pennsylvania, Mr. Boyle.
Mr. Speaker, I yield myself such time as I may consume.
Gentleman's recognized.
Mr. Speaker, by my calculation, I have now been up 43 of the last 45 hours, and I'm not quitting yet. And we're not quitting yet, because the stakes are just too damn high. This is one of the most significant pieces of legislation we will ever vote on. This bill will bring about the greatest loss of health care in American history. More than 6 million Americans who are currently on the Affordable Care Act will lose their health insurance if this Republican bill becomes law. More than 7 million Americans currently on Medicaid will lose their health care if this Republican bill becomes law. In fact, in total, 13.7 million Americans will lose their health care, according to the nonpartisan CBO. That's bad enough. But then, late last night, we also got confirmation from CBO that something else is in this bill. Over $500 billion worth of cuts to Medicare. All told, given the cuts to the ACA, the cuts to Medicaid, the cuts to Medicare, the largest loss of health care in American history as a result of this bill. Not even during the Great Depression did so many people lose their health care as will lose it in this bill. And there are even more cuts beyond that. Cuts to nutrition assistance programs, cuts to Head Start, cuts to other education programs. The list goes on and on. Why? To help pay for over $5 trillion worth of tax cuts, most of which that go to the top 1%. But here's the thing. As draconian as these cuts are, they actually don't even come close to paying for the size of the tax cuts. So how is the rest subsidized? With more debt financing. So much so that we have finally seen, for the first time ever, the Moody's credit agency on Friday downgrade the quality of the credit of the United States. Today, we saw more market churn.
Markets campaigned on it.
Don't have the resources. I see no beauty in a bill that promotes wealth for the wealthy, decreases services and resources for those at the bottom. It's a
by ending the Democrats' ridiculous $600 1099K reporting threshold and reverting back to the time-tested standard of 20,200 transactions. This legislation will undoubtedly make the life of the average American better. And thank you. I yield back.
Gentleman from Massachusetts.
I want to yield 1 minute to the gentlelady from Washington, Congresswoman Del Bene, who really knows something about the child credit.
Gentlelady from Washington is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. President Trump and Republicans love calling this one big, beautiful bill, but it's really one big, broken promise. Republicans swore they would lower costs on day one. Instead, families are paying more for groceries, energy, and health care bills. Republicans have spent months fighting over how many Americans they're going to kick off of Medicaid and how fast. This is literally a matter of life and death. And for what? Another massive round of tax breaks to pad the wallets of the ultra-wealthy and big corporations. A mom from Kirkland told me recently that she was horrified to see what Republicans are doing to these programs. She raised 2 kids with the support of Medicaid, SNAP, and the child tax credit. She said the supports Republicans are cutting help real people live real, productive lives. I urge you to listen to your constituents and vote no on this big, broken promise. I yield back.
Gentleman from Missouri.
Mr. Speaker, this is what the one big, beautiful bill is all about. This is what 77 million Americans voted for. Make the 2017 Trump tax cuts permanent. No tax on tips. No tax on overtime. No tax on car loan interest. And tax relief for seniors. The one big, beautiful bill puts money back in the pockets of the people who make this country run. President Trump promised a new golden age, and House Republicans are delivering on that promise. The American people, they're counting on Congress to get the job done. Let's pass this bill, and let's deliver for American workers, farmers, families, and small businesses. I yield 1 minute and 15 seconds to the gentlelady from New York, Ms. Malliotakis.
Gentlelady from New York is recognized for 1 minute and 15 seconds.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In this bill, we are providing real tax relief for hardworking Americans, for middle-class families, for us senior citizens, not the billionaires like the Democrats claim. We increase the state and local tax deduction, the standard deduction, the child tax credit. The last 2 would be cut in half if we take no action today. We provide tax relief by including my legislation to provide a bonus deduction to reduce the taxes that our seniors pay on their Social Security income. We fulfill President Trump's commitment to eliminate taxes on tips and overtime, and we stop the return of the alternative minimum tax that crushed middle-class families. We allow Americans to fully deduct auto loan interest on their American-made vehicles, and we help young graduates with student loan debt get reimbursed by their employers tax-free. All of that is for working class, middle class, not billionaires. We also make sure that this bill keeps our borders secure and funds the deportation of criminal illegal immigrants, and we increase and strengthen domestic energy production and security, and we safeguard Medicaid for our seniors, for our disabled, for our children with disabilities, and we crack down on the fraudsters by targeting waste, fraud, and abuse. The Democrats can continue to fight for the fraudsters. They continue to fight for the illegal immigrants, but we're going to deliver for the working families, middle class, and senior citizens. Thank you, and I yield back.
Gentleman from Massachusetts.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I remind the gentlelady that the SALT deduction that we offered in our tax bill on a secret ballot would have gotten all the Republicans from New York and New Jersey and California. With that, I want to yield 1 minute to the gentlelady from Wisconsin, Congresswoman Moore, who nobody has ever walked away from saying, I think she's undecided.
Gentlelady from Wisconsin is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I'll just say this, that the greatest trick that the devil plays is to convince you that it won't be you who he devours. It will be those others, those so-called illegals, those trans people, the welfare queens, and the boy in the basement who won't work. So you justify slashing hundreds of billions of dollars from Medicaid, undermining the ACA, cutting $500 billion in Medicare, adding trillions of dollars to the debt, facilitating the dismantling of care from hospitals, community health centers, nursing homes to finance billionaire tax cuts. And then the bell sounds and you screech. For whom does the bell toll? It tolls for thee. And Mr. Speaker, I will yield back, but I will not yield my soul. Do not vote for this bill.
I yield 1 minute to the gentleman from Tennessee, Mr. Kustoff.
Gentleman from Tennessee is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I rise today to speak in favor of the one big, beautiful bill. My colleagues and I on the House Ways and Means Committee on the Republican side have been preparing for this moment for 2 years. Mr. Speaker, we have traveled across the country and conducted field hearings, meeting and hearing from individuals, from manufacturers, from farmers, and from small business owners. And the message that we got from them was clear. Make permanent all those successful provisions from the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017. There is no doubt that when we passed the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act in 2017, we ushered in a red-hot economy that created jobs and opportunities for all Americans. It's essential that the House of Representatives pass this bill today to cement a pro-growth tax code and usher our nation into a new era of prosperity for all. The American people in November voted overwhelmingly for this, and now it's our time to deliver. And thank you. I yield back.
Gentleman from Massachusetts.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let me yield 2 minutes to the gentleman from Massachusetts, the ranking member of the Oversight Committee, my friend, Congressman Lynch.
Gentleman from Massachusetts is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the gentleman from Springfield for yielding. I rise this morning on behalf of our friend and colleague, General Jerry Conley, the gentleman from Virginia, with the hope of infusing this debate with his passion and his wisdom on behalf of the federal workers for whom there was no greater champion. Jerry was especially grateful for the federal workers at the VA and the Walter Reed Medical Center, especially the nurses and therapists and physicians and support staff that cared for our veterans and active military. In all honesty, Jerry was furious at the way the federal workers and veterans are being treated under this bill. He was angry that Donald Trump purged 325,000 federal workers, including at least 3,000 workers at the VA, and that the cuts in this reconciliation bill will require the firing of 80,000 more workers at the VA, at least 27,000 of those workers veterans themselves. While the termination of these workers at the VA is outrageous and disrespectful, it's only half the story, because it is the mission of those workers at the VA to care for our veterans that will be ended as well. We should each of us remember that veterans' benefits are different. They are special obligations taken on by our country, our society, and our Congress. Veterans' benefits are obligations owed to our veterans for courageous service previously rendered. And the promise to every son and daughter who puts on that uniform is that if you come home from service with the scars of war, visible or invisible, we will take care of you and your family. That promise has been maintained throughout this nation's history by Democrat and Republican administration without pause. Until now, until tonight, until Donald Trump signs this bill. Mr. Speaker, this is a disgraceful way to treat both workers at the VA and the veterans they serve. I urge my colleagues to vote against this bill, and I yield back.
Gentleman from Missouri.
I yield 2 minutes to the gentleman from Arkansas, Mr. Westerman, the chairman of the Natural Resources Committee.
Gentleman from Arkansas is recognized for 2 minutes.
Thank you, Chairman Smith, for yielding, and also thank you for your leadership, your patience, and your unwavering dedication to put this tax policy and this budget reconciliation bill before us. Mr. Speaker, I rise today in support of the opportunity we have to not only provide historic tax relief for hardworking Americans, but also to spur investments in our economy by developing the resources of our land. This is our unique opportunity to do something truly worthy to be remembered in our day and in our generation. The Natural Resources Committee is proud to have played a key part in this legislation. Our title far exceeds our $1 billion instruction. The Congressional Budget Office estimates it will generate over $20 billion in savings and new revenue for the federal government, primarily by direct royalty and lease fees from the sale of oil, gas, timber, and mined resources, while curbing wasteful spending. But CBO's direct revenue evaluation